opportunities for 21 million Nigerians as federal government launches Decent Work Country Program 3.
Ensure that a new job in both the public and private sectors are productive and provide opportunities for career progression to deliver a fair income.
House of Representatives commences debate on 2024 Appropriation Bill, expresses optimism for economic reform.
Security is properly tackled in this country. Among other things, there will be an increase in the production of goods and services.
Ondo State holds executive meeting for the first time after 3 months. All right, so don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget and I'll tell you what you value. And of course, how you spend your budget determines the quality of life you intend to live. I'm sure this resonates with all of us.
Indeed, Claire. A budget is not just an aggregate of numbers, figures, parameters, and all the technical economic jargons. There, or rather, should be in simple terms, the empirical representation of values we hold dear.
Absolutely, absolutely. And why budgets give us an insight into our purchasing power. That's our ability to produce, buy and sell comparatively to what we cannot. What budgets do not do, however, is to actually stop or prevent anyone or any form of economic activity, now whether at the micro or macroeconomic levels.
Reactions to the 2024 Appropriation Bill started even before the fiscal presentation to the National Assembly by Mr. President. The MTF provided that insight into the whole package, which culminated in the 27.5 trillion budgeted for 2024 fiscal year.
And on Good Morning Nigeria yesterday, we started a conversation on what the budget tagged Budget of Renewed Hope translates for Nigerians, already within the 133 million population threshold described as multidimensionally poor.
Against all indices and parameter benchmarks, the budget was described as a step forward. In terms of allocation, it was also given a high, since allocations aligned with the 8-point agenda of his administration. However, the caution was with, as has been the norm, with judicious use, releases and implementation.
And again, you're right, Ingrid. And talking about implementation, it starts right from the National Assembly. Well, fortunately, true to their words, the House of Reps already started deliberations on the 2024 budget appropriation. But the big question is, can this budget really pull out Nigerians from the budget dragnet, unemployment, insecurity, infrastructure debt, low quality human capacity? But fundamentally, how will this budget put food on the tables of all Nigerians? On Good Morning Nigeria this Friday, we dig deeper to unbundle the 2024 Appropriation Bill for you. I am Claire Adilabu Abdulrazak. Thank you for joining us, and beautiful Ingrid.
Okay, Claire, I love the last line. How would the budget put food on the table of Nigerians? That is, I'm sure the expectation of every Nigerian, whether rich, whether poor, whether in rural or in the urban areas in any part of this country. Claire, before the food gets to the table, you need to have, the purchasing power to buy them.
Of course.
So affordability and availability is also an element of the macroeconomic stability that Mr. President promises to address. On the other hand, the entertainment industry is one of the contributors to the country's GDP. And according to available data, the industry currently accounts for 853.9 billion naira, or 1.42% of Nigeria's GDP. And that cannot be overlooked.
Absolutely not.
We also cannot ignore the allure and prestige that Nollywood brings to the country. Our second topic is the Zuma Film Festival. Ian Ray John, and I'm excited to say thank God it's Friday today. Happy New Month, Claire. So I'm the first to say thank God it's Friday. It is the last day of the week and the first day of the month of December, and as usual we're transmitting live right here in Abuja.
And so we will be taking highlights of the morning news in just a moment, and some business news thereafter. Chukwudiko Dugbaja will be in the house for newspaper review. Frama Pai is back on the beat, so let's get the news headline from her. Hello Prama, good to see you.
Good to see you, Claire. Good morning, Yuri. Thanks for joining us on the morning news. The federal government is to create 21 million jobs for Nigerians between 2023 and 2027 and lift 35 million people out of poverty. This is coming from the Minister of Labour and Employment, Simon Bako-Lalong, at the launch of Nigeria's Decent Work Country Programme 3.
We will ensure that existing and new jobs in both the public and private sectors are productive and provide opportunities for career progression to deliver a fair income and social security for the family.
Lawmakers in the Senate are optimistic that assumptions and parameters in the proposed 2024 appropriations are in tune with reality and will effectively address socio-economic issues in Nigeria.
Issues of revenue shortfall and meeting unexpected emergencies can only be tackled either by 1, borrowing, or 2, cutting expenditure.
Some of the expenditures are fixed. We can't do anything about that. But we must work on the variable portion of the expenditures.
Similarly, the House of Representatives has described the 2024 appropriation bill as the foundation for renewed hope in Nigeria's economic prosperity, expressing confidence in the Tinubu administration to drive national rebirth and economic recovery. Commencing debate on the general principles of the 2024 budget proposal of 27.5 trillion naira, lawmakers in the Green Chamber commended President Bola Tinubu for presenting a realistic spending plan for the next fiscal year.
Right direction that Mr. President is pointing the country to, particularly at a time when we are looking at climate change and the greener economy. We know that our president is ready to move Nigeria to the next level.
The political impasse in Ondo State may have come to an end as the State Executive Council meeting held for the first time on Thursday in the last 3 months. The meeting was presided over by Deputy Governor Loki Aiyedatiwa.
We discussed as one family, and the key decisions were spelled out for those who were not there. We all agreed to embrace peace.
Talking security now, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, has assured the Nigerian Police Force that the clash between the Army and police in Adamawa State will be thoroughly investigated and those found wanting will face justice. The CDS stated this when he visited the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, at the Force Headquarters, Abuja.
I've already established standing commercials for offences. I've seen the role and responsibility of commercials in the theatre, and that I have done so that whatever it is that has happened after investigation, those that are found culpable will face the music.
I want to assure the CBS that the police is committed to this collaboration.
And that concludes the news. Claire and Yeri will be back for the rest of the program after this break.
Renewed Hope Initiative, a pet project of the First Lady, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Oluwami Tinubu, is up and running. Meeting targets, fast touching lives, Renewed Hope Initiative comes with a clear interventionist mandate, catering to the poor, needy, and vulnerable.
All right, thank you for joining us again. The program is Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA. It's time to take a look at some business news, and for that, let's join Alika Okpanachi Arwa.
Governments at all levels have, over the years, initiated several policies to support economically disadvantaged people. One of such policies is a child benefit, which was designed to provide financial benefits to families with children towards their education, health, well-being, and economic stability. The Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, while inaugurating the Interministerial Technical Working Group on Child-Centered Economic Development Policy Stimulation in Abuja, reassures of government's commitment to keeping its promise of inclusion and eradicating poverty.
There are children that are left behind for no fault of theirs, and it should not be so. The world is wealthy enough to ensure that every child gets educated.
In another development, numbers released on Thursday by the European Union's Statistics Agency, Eurostat, revealed that inflation in Europe dropped to 2.4% in November 2023, the lowest in over 2 years. Inflation for the 20 countries using the euro currency fell from an annual 2.9% in October to 2.4% in November 2023. Let's take a look at Thursday tradings on the floor of the exchange. With business news, Alika Okpanachi Arwa.
Many thanks, Alika, for the business update there. Let's now have a newspaper review.
Alright, Chukwudi Okolie Ubaja is right here with us in the studio to do the newspaper review. Chukwudi, good morning. It's a beautiful day, ushering in the very festive season.
I hope you're not seeing a very beautiful day because you saw the headline. The punch newspaper.
Oh my God!
I know what we just do to you.
I'm always on the positive lane. I'm always on the positive lane. I didn't even see this. Yes, I didn't even see this. Let's quickly begin.
Good morning, Chukwudi. Good to see you. Happy New Month.
Anyway, take off.
All right, so let's begin with the Daily Trust this morning. We have the lead story here: how to get 2024 budget right, and that's coming from economists. The writer says proposal low compared to South Africa, Ghana, others. Nigerians not interested in figures, but you want to find out the concluding part of that statement. Pick up a copy of the Daily Trust, and then we have senators, reps consider Tinubu's 27.5 trillion naira budget without details. We can read up that story on page 4 of the Daily Trust. Above that story, just below the masthead, we have 9 months after Lagos Airport International runway remains closed. Nigerian nurse in UK sacked, deported over prayer for dying patient. Details on page 6. Nigerian nurse in UK sacked, deported over prayer for dying patient. Villagers flee as soldiers leave Kaduna community. And you can read up that story on page 33 of the Daily Trust. The picture story here is a very beautiful one. You can see pictures of 1,001 students on Kano State Government's foreign scholarship departing to their respective destinations. And that's all from the Daily Trust this morning. Quickly taking a look at the Daily Sun, on the front page, of course, and the lead stories. We have federal government paints scary picture of poverty. The writer puts number of starving Nigerians at 94.5 million. Alarmed over 80% surge in food importation. Details on page 6 of the Daily Sun. Just beside the masthead, we have HIV/AIDS. Of course, today is World AIDS Day. Nigeria has achieved 94 to 90 to 96 of the global 95 UN AIDS targets, and that's coming from the government. Details on page 8 of the Daily Sun. And just below the picture story, we have 2024 budget. House of Reps talks tough. Says only MDAs with judicious use of 2023 allocation will get funds. And just away from that story now, finally this morning in the black strip, we have budget. Senate's leader faults 9.9 trillion naira recurrent allocation. And details can be found on page 6 of the Daily Sun.
Okay, so all the stories except, of course, the picture story that's on the front page of the Punch, Ian has read. So let's take a look at the picture story on the front page of the Punch, and it's on COP28. Tinubu meets King Charles. Nigeria and others eye $261 billion fund. And of course, you see there Prince Charles, rather King Charles. We used to call him Prince Charles, King Charles, and the President of Nigeria right there, of course, having an eyeball to eyeball talk there, that we probably see us getting 261 part of it, $1 billion funding. That's a good one there. Now, trending stories just beneath that picture story, Jakpa. Federal government urges varsity to produce more doctors. It's on page 7. Jigawa police arrest 53 suspected criminals and kidnappers. It's on page 4. And above the nameplate, CBN fund, Senate threatens to order gas companies probe. It's on page 7. And Shaibu free to contest the governorship election. That says Obaseki. And federal government pays 585 million naira fines, begins nationwide prisoners release. Details of that on page 7. And just to hit the nail on the head, I like to, for emphasis, new wage begins April. Federal government votes 24 trillion naira for salaries.
Can you please re-echo that? I think I'd love to hear that.
When the bell said what he said, he sounded parrotish.
No, but this is not new.
As usual.
Fine, let's begin the analysis.
Yes.
The review.
I know that's the best analysis in town today.
well, there's also the visit to, King Charles.
The keeping, promise matters to me more than workers getting 1 million naira.
That's what I'm saying.
We said 35,000 naira cross board to every person. It will end by March. And the federal government is saying that truly by April 1, there will be
a new regime.
Keeping the pledge is very important to me. Very important.
Well, but we must also consider that, the feasibility of that, or the workability of that, against the fiscal plan of the federal government at the moment, and more specifically against the fiscal deficit that we're going to incur. Yes. Now, if we're voting 24 trillion naira out of our 2024 budget for salaries and pensions, you can then imagine what is going to happen.
So are you complaining?
No, it's not complaining. It's been empirically realistic.
We're being realistic. How much our economy goes deep into analysis. Let me say this. I was listening to somebody on a channel just yesterday. He's from Lagos Business School. He's not alarmed over borrowing and all that. And I said this yesterday. I don't know any economics, but I said it. And I read this. I watched the station just yesterday. He said, it is what you do
with what you prepare,
with what you have, how you manage what you have, Economics is macro and micro, you know. Those two aspects, when you balance properly. The most interesting thing to me is that a man called Edu is in charge when it comes to finance and all that. And the CBN man too is somebody, can also somebody I respect as well. So exactly. I think those workings of economics they are talking about are going to be handled better this time around. You know, I complained during the last administration. I did personally. You know, Chukwudi, remember what we said in our introductions about budget. It's not just an aggregation of, you know, jargons. It is a combination of our, you know, expression of our values, how we intend, you know, to pursue those values. Yes. You understand? Now, I'm not talking about borrowing when I said what I said. I'm talking about, you know, our revenue generation. Yes, at hand. And how we intend to rake in more revenue to support government's policies and actions. It is easy.
I'm sure the government.
If electricity happens 8 out of the 7 days of the week, please read my lips. People will not complain that they pay you 12,000, 15,000 at the end of the month for electricity, because they have power to do other things that will give them money.
Of course.
So regularity, IGL, I mentioned Senator Akiyelue just 3 days ago when he talked to me about a month ago about how Lagos turned this IGR profile into something that really became beautifully monstrous.
I think we need to move away from that. But looking at the pieces that are handling different sectors
back at the national level
in this present administration, looking at the appointment so far, you know, for me, I think it sends a clear message that, you know, the government knows what it's doing, and I'm sure in the coming months we'll get to see, you know, what you're talking about. All of this translates to what Nigerians are expecting. But for the salary issue is what I want to talk about. For a Nigerian worker at this point, this is what the renewed hope is all about, getting to see a new wage.
I know you never talk about the possibility of inflation. That is not part of your thinking at all.
It's not.
You see, Henry,
also talk about inflation, because if you have your salary increased and you cannot, or you are not able to buy goods,
don't you feel somewhere
exactly
in the middle of the market?
Yes, so
feel that.
So you should also be concerned about
how you came in with a lot of money. You feel
about how government hopes to tackle inflation, which is in 2 digits at the moment.
We agree.
Let's move on so that we can.
But outside salary, the other things that could affect inflation. So that the increased salary doesn't mean that inflation will definitely increase.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
And at the moment, well,
none of us here is expert. So let's talk about
exactly.
So I know that more money pursuing too few goods would lead to inflation. That was what Adam said.
Let's just see, for the Nigerian worker, let's just see more money first, and then we'll handle the others.
Tinubu meets King Charles, Nigeria, others are 261 billion naira. Now the fund, the total of that will help nations impacted by climate change from fossil fuel exploration cope with costly climate disasters, and this has been on for a long time to get those countries that contribute, you know, the most to climate change to begin to assist those that are least affected. You understand? To
mitigate. The thing always by Africa and parts of Asia is they make us suffer for their sin. They are the ones who are belching smoke into the air, into the atmosphere, but they expect us to make sacrifice. You know. But let us say that I like what the British monarch is doing, just as I like what former American Vice President Al Gore is doing about the climate. We need to tackle climatic changes that are not helping humanity. It is real. Donald Trump actually got me confused when he had an attitude towards the climate. You know,
not just you, so many people. but the point I want to raise about this is the fact that this is very, very strategy for us, the meeting with King Charles. And we know that King Charles has this soft spot for Nigeria, whether we like it or not. He's always shown some interest in Nigeria, and being the head of the Commonwealth again. So this meeting will probably between Nigeria and Britain will probably be the beginning of even strengthened relationship. Yes, and more bilateral cooperation from the two countries.
Of course, as COP28 kicks off today in Dubai, we hope to see more of this kind of agreement being reached, by Nigeria, not just with King Charles, but with some other nations that will be participating in the summit. And we hope that by the time the president returns to Nigeria, we'll get to see all of this translate to action. Sometimes a lot of agreements are signed, MOUs reached, and all of that, but you don't get to see it, come into fruition. So just hope that at the end of the day, we get a lot of benefits from this particular summit.
Yes, and also speaking to COP28, Nigeria has our own nationally, committed, programs to ending yes, and all that. It behoves on those managing our energy sector, especially the downstream in the part of the sector, to come up with cleaner ways of generating energy.
It's everybody's job, really. You see, at the village level, we should also let people know that uncontrolled bush burning also contributes fossil fuels into the atmosphere.
We do not have time.
It is an errand that blows no one any good. Global warming.
A lot of education needs to go into that, really. If we must end it in Nigeria and Africa, because for the average Nigerian, or if you like, the poor farmer in the village, how are you going to start educating the person about
there are cleaner stoves now. There are getaways.
There are better ways. There are so many things.
I'm just saying that a lot of education needs to go out there.
Kingsley and
just make them affordable.
Have always said, where is the National Orientation Agency? And we keep saying it. Is it still a zero allocation situation? Is that the issue? Whatever the issue is, we need to tackle it. Nigerians need to be reorientated, particularly our youth. They have to show love of country. It can't happen automatically.
Yes.
There are many things we can do.
We're talking about love of country, but quickly, I think that line would make this. The fact that some state governments are sponsoring their citizens, outside of the country. I don't know. I just want to find out your take. Is it a step in the right direction?
Sponsoring them to what?
To other parts of the world.
Yeah.
For
maybe on
scholarship for education and all that. So is it right step in the
send
right
people
direction?
out to acquire expertise and they return so that we recoup from our investment, because it's an investment sending there. There's nothing wrong. That's how it should be. But
we're trying to fight the jackpot syndrome.
Nigeria loses.
No, but we're trying to fight the jackpot syndrome. So I'm just trying to, put.
I actually heard something which I didn't want to comment on, but now we're talking. They said produce more doctors.
Yes.
To solve jackpot. You can't solve the issue of a surgeon of 30 years experience leaving Nigeria because you produce a young surgeon. You can't.
Chukwudi, thank you.
Let's be careful.
Chukwudi, thank you. I want to bid you goodbye by just posing a rhetorical question, and that is on even energy. What does it take? Other countries are doing it to pipe gas into our homes, and then you understand? You pay for it. It's not rocket science. If other countries can do it, that's part of transfer of technology. Chooks the ball. Have a good weekend.
We're saying let's have ease of life happen to us more and more. Nigeria can do much more than it's doing now. Thank you so much.
When you say pipe gas to homes, just urban homes or those in rural areas too?
Chiku, don't listen to you.
I'm just asking.
Can we say advice? Can we allow Chukwudi to go?
Many thanks, Chooks. Wishing you the best in the month of December.
Bless you, it's a Friday.
Welcome back. We'll get into our conversation. Stay with us. Good morning, Nigeria is live on the network service of the NTA. We started our conversation on the 2024 Appropriation Bill yesterday, and we will continue today. But before we get into the conversation again, let's take this excerpt put together by Abdulsalam Jibril.
Now, speaking specifically with respect to the numbers, again, I think they seem to be an improvement from what we had the previous year. Deficit has dropped to about 3.88% to GDP. Okay, so that's a step towards fiscal consolidation. In the case of oil price, if you take the projections by international energy agencies, take the U.S. Energy Information Administration, for example. The U.S. Energy Information Administration is projecting $93 per barrel for 2024. The World Bank is projecting $80 per barrel for 2024. If you look at some other countries what they have used for their 2024 fiscal year, Saudi Arabia, for example, has used $80 per barrel, what they call break-even oil price for 2024. Egypt is using 80. So if you look at that holistically, what it simply says is that the 77.9 we are using is conservative. It's realistic.
During our interaction, and because of considering the budget, we're also going to be interfacing with the heads of the agencies. And at the moment, we have a guide, which is the legislative agenda of the 10th Assembly. This document talks about strengthening good governance, accountability and transparency in the conduct of government businesses. I will advise some of these MDAs, to particularly those coming to defend their budget before the House of Representatives. You must look into our working document, our guide, which is the legislative agenda of the 10th Assembly.
All right, thank you, Abdul Salam, for the excerpts there of our guests speaking to us on the 2024 Appropriation Bill yesterday on Good Morning Nigeria. We have two other guests here today to also take a deeper analysis of what the bill will translate, of course, in the long run for Nigerians. We have Professor Ken Ife, who, of course, is a familiar face in Good Morning Nigeria, but is also an economic policy analyst, and we're very glad to have him join us on the program.
Thank you.
Also joining us is Yushra Aliyu, an economist. A pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you, and good morning, Nigeria.
Good morning. Welcome.
All right, gentlemen, let's start. Of course, we said earlier on that reactions already kicked in, even while the presentation was going on. The MTEF was already out in the public, so people had an insight of what the budget was going to look like. But let me start with Professor Ken Ife to give us your own perspective on this budget. Some say it's quite ambitious if you consider the fiscal measures and government's assumption.
Well, I think there are so many strengths to this budget, to the extent that the strength outweigh the weaknesses. I really would describe this as a budget of pragmatic realism and a budget of hope, because if you notice, the allocations have been very kind. For example, health. You have all the complaining about investment in human capacity, and that has been plaguing. People have been agitating, and many people all over the world keep saying to you, "Don't ignore your human resources. That's your biggest investment." And for now, we've now seen about 7.9% go to health, more than twice what you would have been, and then you've seen more also go to education and health, 7% education. Just a little short of what African Union would want, for 10%. So it's moving in the right direction. Then, of course, you could see a conscious effort to reduce the deficit. And you can see them now targeting the 3% limit, the FRA limit on debt, which is significant. And there are so many indices that you will see there that are actually showing that if you look at the assumptions are realistic. You look at the inflation assumption is close to the current assumption, targeting about 21.something%. So
it's realistic if you consider it, but in real terms, is it easy to bridge
That's another story. That's another story. Because you might actually be rising. We haven't seen the end. It is going to get worse before it gets better, but it will get better. Because there are many things that are in the line of sight. You've seen quite some money coming in, which means that we are paying attention to supply of forex. Because in all of these price mechanisms, we must always balance demand with supply. So the debate has always been around the demand side, either in inflation or in exchange rates or in all of them. The debate has always been on the demand side. But now you can see conscious effort to beef up supply. So, for example, 10 billion is in the line of sight. You have 1.5 billion. So you can see something coming in, and then you've seen also the future revenue from LNG. The next 5 years have been captured. You've seen more money captured from future sales of crude. So all of them are forcing dollar, and even the budget construction itself is saying, oh, please keep away from domestic borrowing because it's crowding out private sector investment. Because it's saying on the same breath, central bank is saying we are reducing the liquidity to less than 1 billion of the banks. So you're saying head out more to forex.
Okay.
So foreign borrowing just to show up revenue.
We'll try and capture as much as we can because we have two topics. But again, just cap your view. You said it's a budget of pragmatic realism
and hope.
All right, many thanks, Professor Kenife. I like the words that you have used. You know, it actually gives hope, you know, coming from a prof and saying that the strength of the budget outweighs the weaknesses. But you see, some people have, you know, come out to say that that may not be true as regards, you know, the weaknesses of the budget when you consider some of the parameters used, and one of them will be the projected daily production, you know, for oil put at 1.78 million barrels per day. At the moment, it stands at 1.2 million barrels per day. So, having over 500,000 increase is what some people say is unrealistic, and then, you know, pegging that the naira will be exchanged at about 750 when at the moment we're over 1,000. So Yeshua, I'd like you to come in at this point. Do you agree with Prof? And then looking at these parameters and then the projection for next year, do you really think it will work?
Well, quite okay. Prof is a positive economic thinker, and the reality on ground is that it is, of course, pragmatic in nature, but there is a sense of resilience as far as the effort to use the tools in adjusting macroeconomic stability. However, you know, people have ways of understanding issues. People attach also certain sentiment to issues. Nominally, this is the largest budget, in fact, in the history of Nigeria, 27.5 trillion. When you see 27.5 trillion, you know that we have to remember that we are coming out from a recession, and it is, of course, necessary to make more injections into the economy, not only making right injection. President, in his wisdom, has postulated certain concern about security of the environment, and you cannot, no matter what parameter you are using, no matter what assumption you are putting on ground, you have to make sure that the economic environment is friendly enough to accept the injection to translate to reality. One assumption that I think we have to be more careful is human capital development targeting children in the presentation, because presently what is the challenge of the demographic structure of the economy? There was supposed to have been population headcounts this year, but as a result of many political factors it is shifted. So we are expecting not to make much delay, because it has been long. We have our head counts to understand. Look, demographically you need to understand where to put certain relevant policies to make it more friendly with the economy. Youth, for instance, we have seen the reaction of youth in NSAS. We have seen the reaction also during electioneering. So if we are to contend based on certain fundamental record, that emanate from the Bureau of Statistics, where over 133 million Nigerians were plunged into poverty club, we have to ascertain what category of the demographic that is more challenging. However,
so just before you go veer off this issue of human capacity and the peg on children, your concern is with the absence now of an updated and reliable demographic representation for children that could be used to implement
design policies.
Implement. So there's a snag there. Please go ahead.
And not only that, President was magnanimous to introduce students' loan. It is when you know demographically, you know the institutions, the student, the prospective beneficiaries, that you now properly budget what is due for that intervention.
But the institutions do have the
data. Yes, of course they have the data. But what is more important, remember that the environment is accommodating different kind of students and is accommodating different type of scholarships. There is federal scholarship, there is a state scholarship. These are some of the key issues that must be identified. If you are a beneficiary of a scholarship, then definitely there are certain consideration to be made on those who are to first access the loan. This is what I think will help from the state structure, not only state structure, but educational structure. Some are schooling within Africa, some are schooling within Nigeria, some are schooling outside Africa. And all of them, if they are to access the student loan, they are qualified because they are Nigerians. Then which one are you giving priority in giving out this? Because human capital development start from education.
Lisa, I always appreciate how you bring these technicalities down to the grassroots, and then of course you make it people friendly. Prof, again, like what he's saying, which is the actual or major concern of the average Nigerian out there, is when we talk about all these figures and all these terms and all the parameters, the issue is Nigerians would want to know, for instance, what are the frameworks? If you want to drive revenue, for instance, you peg inflation at 21 percent. What are the framework for driving that, for implementing that? Are you relying on the current monetary and fiscal policy that is on ground? Is that what you're going to rely? If we're looking at that, you know what it has done. Inflation has is always on the up. Yes. Now, if you are looking at stabilizing the microeconomy, prices of foodstuff, what are you going to do? To ensure that that is curtailed. If we are looking at, for instance, addressing the energy sector, what are you going to do? What are you doing? To ensure that yes, we increase our production capacity. We are doing 1.2 at the moment. We have a projection of 1.78. So what are you going to do to address the issues of oil theft? To address the issue of the ailing refineries? These are the parameters and frameworks that people probably would have loved to see against this budget.
A bit more. You're right, actually. People think about the bottom line. And I think the emphasis on oil has always been the impact it has on government revenue, not the impact on the economy, because it's about 5% of the economy, but about 40% of government revenue. So that's why you keep seeing oil price and oil production volume in the fundamental parameters. And I keep saying, why don't you have other things in these parameters? For example, solid mineral. Just choose one or two, the biggest driver in solid mineral, and have that number there. And you look at the service sector, that is 54% of our budget, of our GDP. There's nothing indicator there. So put one indicator, and one indicator is electronic money transfer levy. Now that is the one that mirrors the service sector, because it talks about the ICT, it talks about the banking sector. Those two are the drivers of the sector. If you have that, and if you look at the growth there is phenomenal. In 2021, we were doing 1.8 billion transactions. And we were number 6 in the world. Even America is 1.2, Japan 1.4, Brazil 1.0. We are ahead of them. Now the target is 2.7 trillion transactions. Just a year, 2022, it rose to 3.5 billion. So if you look at that, and then you know that the revenue there could grow, then put it there as one of the benchmark. What it does is that it will drive inclusion. It will drive paper, all these things. Everybody knows that they have a target. The commercial banks know they have to increase. The CBN knows that they have to do more on their FSS strategy. Everybody wants to do more because government's target is to get more revenue from them, which is a mirror of the 54% impact on the economy. So I think it's got to be taken seriously. Otherwise, we are just locked into this whole up and down of oil and gas and just not giving us the revenue.
And of
now we are going to tie up those revenues that are coming from gas. For the next 5 years, we are taking it up front. With the crude, we're taking, we're taking 3 billion of crude up. So what's going to happen next year, the year before, the year after?
And another thing that is of serious concern to Nigerians at this point would be the debt servicing numbers.
But it's come down. It's coming down. It's about
45% of the total revenue in 2024.
No, look at the target. The target is 8.2 trillion. That is a significant drop from what it was
from 2023.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't raise some concerns.
And the concerns will never go away. I mean, because there's concern in every aspect of our economy. But the thing is that let's also appreciate positive steps. And then if you encourage and recognize positive steps, then they will do more. For example, the president, I don't know how many days he has slept in Abuja, but this guy is out running around the whole world talking about investment, which is the same thing Obasanjo did in the first 2 years when Nigeria was a pariah nation. And he had to go round and round a lot to
but it didn't
get confidence.
Yield much, for the Obasanjo administration, and then he had to sit down, and then the administration had to look inward to see how they could revive the economy. So how do you think it will be different this time around?
No, it is different because you can actually see the signs. You went to India, $14 billion. You've seen $10 billion in the line of sight. Coming, you've seen a recent one, World Bank giving 1.5 billion, which is budget support at concessionary rates. There are a lot of them coming in, and then you've seen. So all of these are activity. How many months? We've only had a few months. Okay. But if only that can continue, that momentum can continue, then the story will be written. I'm telling you, the story will be written, but we've suffered so much that we're tired of hearing promises.
Exactly. and that leads me to my next question. Prof will tell us about the numbers. You tell us about, the big figures. We already said the economic jargons. And, for the average person, they don't understand all those terms, inflation and all of that. So, Yeshua, I'd like you to please help us break this down. Looking at this budget critically, how do you see it if it turns out well? How do you see it affecting the lives of the average of Nigerian? I mean, in real figures now.
You see, realistically, your name defines you. So the theme of the budget defines the budget. Renewed hope. So in renewed hope, all our hands must be on deck. For personally to have the hope, and then to convince others, and then to convince the policy makers. Let me tell you, the entire world, right from post-COVID, we are facing cost of living crisis worldwide. That cost of living crisis coming back to our domestic economy. 59% of average fixed income earner is going for food and non-alcoholic beverages. Prof spoke about USSD charges on structured service that probably will make more money. On subscription data, over 22% of every individual's income is going on that. Data for call, charges for calls, we pay for it. So when you join these two, and then you now move to an fixed income earner, he has a different challenge with a flexible income earner. But the worst part are the autonomous consumers who rely in African society. It's no longer, it's a nuclear family. You have bundles of responsibilities. depending on one income. So, but the fashion in the budget to give hope, we have seen it. We all agree that the president spoke from his mind. We all agree that the Senate president try as much as possible to convince Nigerians that they are going to work diligently on this budget and they are going to harmonize where it is needed. However, the speaker on his own side emphasized on productivity. So when the president is talking about human capital development, the speaker is talking about productivity and how productivity can be rewarded. These are the things that at the end of the day we are expecting better policies from the forex. Prof has highlighted investment that is coming in. The best investment to come to Nigeria is to have our refined capacity back. And I spoke with Saudi Arabia. Aramco is the biggest oil company that has the highest experience. So he is doing the right thing. When he goes to Saudi Arabia, he didn't waste time to enter the Kaaba. He just went direct to meet the king. Please, we need intervention. You have refining capacity. Saudi Arabia is refining Saudi Arabia 11 million barrels per day. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Again, we also need to look at sources of our revenue generation. The sources from where the revenue to be earned will be generated. And of course, the president emphasized the fact that for infrastructure, that the MDAs will have to source for external, private investments to come in. Government alone cannot carry the burden of our infrastructure. But let us look at what is available to our, indigenous manufacturers and in the industries, because a lot of the revenue will be expected from, from there. How might the monetary policy rate in existence now impact on the ability of our manufacturers, to produce more goods, to carry out their transactions that will in turn, spur up economic activity and liquidity for the system?
Well, you've touched a nerve there with your question. 2 days ago, I was addressing the central bank officials and all the forex managers of all the banks. And the Manufacturers Association were there. They were making their submission. They were very, very nervous on the impact of the return of the 41 items, both on their productivity and both on their competitiveness and all of that. So it's an area that needs more discussions and negotiations and talk. So, and especially for the point that it would help CBN in drawing up the guidance to be more mindful of the potential to decimate the industrial capacity of the country. So I don't want to go too far in that, but that there's fire in the mountains.
There's fire in the mountains.
Yeah, there's secondly, the state-owned enterprises are expected to return about 200 billion in the budget, and that's a far cry from what they potentially could generate. They potentially could generate half of the budget. But the weakness is that the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007 didn't give enough teeth for enforcement and sanctions. So what you now find is that we have an operating surplus that says 80% of the operating surplus should be paid to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. And then you don't have the sanctions, you don't have the power, the law. The amendment has been suggested. Pass this amendment. It's been going up and down in the National Assembly. Pass this amendment. The new amendment will make sure that revenue will triple and quadruple instantly, because you do have. And then you've seen the Ministry of Finance and Budget, chasing and saying, okay, you know what? If you're not bringing me that 80%, now we want to cap your money to 50% revenue, cost to revenue. So anything that comes in will take 50%. And then, you can come back and reconcile later. All of these are pushed just to make sure that they can get the money from the revenue generating agencies. At the moment, it's very, very tough for the government to get those monies back.
So you have these officers spending it and then, sharing the accounting, and then sometimes you used to get a different account to the Auditor General, and a different account. And of course you've got the Murphy that has been in, and that's also trying to shift the game from debt-based financing to asset-based financing, and that is very critical.
I was going to ask again. We heard, during the general elections, we heard of moving the economy from consumption to production. And vice versa, whichever way. This morning, Aaron and I were jubilating, about one of the news items on the front page of the newspapers, the fact that the new salary wage will commence in April, next year, and I'm like, with this 2024 budget, I'm not sure that has also been, captured.
4.49.
Yes. So
which is 40% of the budget. What ECOWAS 10 ECOWAS macroeconomic convergence criteria recommend about 30% maximum, actually, but we're here already. We're hitting 40%. And with the kind of money we are mentioning on the current page, means that we are going to expect a major revision of this budget by June. Major revision. And the jury will be out on how that will go.
Do you have any response to that?
Yes. I think since April is being targeted for the new minimum wage. What is more concerned presently is a wage award, the commitment of the wage award. The supplementary budget has taken care of part of that one. So the lifespan of that supplementary budget is more important at present to contain industrial action, and not only that, I think some of the measurement used by ECOWAS, by United Nations, sometimes is not friendly to most of African states. If you check the wage bill of most of the European states under International Labour Organization, you realize that the African context, that is why we are having much problem. That is why we are having much corruption. The West have tried as much. That's why a lot of people are horizontally just moving to that industrial payment system. And also it is also important to understand that until we design policies that we can keep our professionals, we don't need the expert, we don't need our experts to be around the globe. We want them home. They are doing their best, but what is keeping them is not sustainable.
Yes, sorry. I'm also as you were talking, something just came into my mind, and I'm just wondering the issue that brought up all the minimum, apart from the fact that it is statutory, to review minimum wage every 5 years. It's also because of the impact of subsidy removal and all the policies that government, fiscal policies that government had taken. Is there in a way that, now I'm speaking specifically to Nigerian workers, is there in a way that this budget brings some form of relief in terms of concrete and physical projects that will help to take away the hardship conferred on Nigerians by some of these policies?
You see, there is much work to be done. National Institute of Quantity Surveyors submitted a report where you find over 59,000 projects that are uncompleted, costing above 12 trillion naira. It is when you build critical infrastructures, it is when they are completed that they become a tangible asset to the economy. So, and I think there is need for government to build on this, to take census of all uncompleted projects for us to have a sound economy, because we need these infrastructures. Bridges must be completed, roads must be completed, economic viable project must be complete. Look at the AKK project that is ongoing. Look at the Ajakuta. Look at the coal industry at Inkalagu. These are some of the things that can keep job and then create many jobs. And I think also under this wage condition, it is important for us to at least look, the government should not make mistake, because any wage bill is coming with an avenue where if inflation increases, make adjustment, and these adjustments are necessary. It will keep the people, it will keep the professionals within the economy.
Exactly. Well said, Yeshua. Professor Ken, I'd like to get back to you now, because you have, talked so much about this budget, being optimistic about it. But I'm sure the average man on the street will not share, the same thoughts with you, because previous budgets have come and gone, and nothing, to show. Like some people will say, so much money has been earmarked for different sectors, and then there's nothing to earmark. And one key area will be security. Security has, in this new budget, there's an increase of about 46.39% as against last year's budget. That is huge. Do you really see that playing a big impact in how this economy thrives in the next 1 year? Do you think we're going to see something different, basically? And then Yeshua, that's one leg of the question. Yeshua made some comments about not having enough data, to drive, some of the policies that the government is going to put in place, and then different sectors. And then looking at the 8 priority areas, this government is focusing on. How do you think, they'll be able to translate? Now, this is figures on paper, all right? How do you think they'll be able to translate it for Nigerians to begin to feel the impact and begin to see that hope, not just talk about it or read about it?
See, look, security is everything. Not only for the citizens, people are entitled to live a secure life. That's what the government job is. And if the government is increasing the security, then let's look at effectiveness. But as for security, it's number one. Without security, there will be no peace. Without security, nobody is going to invest in your economy. And even you yourself won't even trust to invest in your economy. So how much you expect somebody outside to come and invest, bring his money, borrow money abroad, bring it here and come and buy? You don't talk about this insecurity. Any money put into security, you talk about the usefulness and the impact, not about the budget. The money has to be made available because you don't have a choice. You really don't have a choice. Then the second thing is that, I keep saying that there are some ways of hope. If you look at this budget, you are going to see a statement that said, yes, we will do some borrowing, but it has to be project-tied loans. You don't used to hear this language. What we used to have is what they call promissory notes. You take the loan, you promise you pay them in the next 5 years, 10 years. But you saw the Minister of Finance say, you know what, I've had enough of this. I will not allow any project to go through without cost-benefit analysis. Now that is a positive statement, because the Fiscal Responsibility Act says, first of all, 3 major things that it says. It says you can only borrow for capital expenditure or human resource development, which is education, health, and employment. It didn't say poverty reduction. It doesn't say, palliative. No, that's not there. You don't have this own income, you can use it to do anything you like. If World Bank wants to give us grant, they can share it. If you're going to borrow money, that's what the law says. And borrowing is on the exclusive legislative list. State governments they can't touch money there without federal government because it's in their list. The second thing that it says is that those borrowings should be subjected to cost-benefit analysis. Yes. So that you can see the intention of the law is you are borrowing money with the intention of retiring the loan. You have to be taking money for a project that you're able to repay it. But that hasn't been the pattern. So that's when he says cost-benefit analysis, actually pointing there. And now he says, okay, we borrow, but it has to be tied to project so that you can account and see the impact. You understand? Now No, please conclude your thought before I take the question. No, so that is that. And then, of course, you see other things that also give you confidence that if you come to the area of inflation, everybody's worried about inflation. And if workers ask for money, you have to give them money because they can't buy anything from what they get, it's pittance. But if you look at, apart from inflation, you look at Forex. The Forex dynamics is actually at the heart of the imported inflation. And then you've seen the chronic problem of our economy being import dependent. If you're import dependent, forget it. That's every international headwind, global headwind will affect you. Whether it is American subprime property crisis of 2008, it affected us. What have we got to do with this? Even this Ukraine, Russia, why should it affect us? After all, we have oil, we have gas, we have issues. Why would it affect us? It's because the import dependency. Exactly. Which means the 40% of the gas consumed by Europe is from, say, the area. They storm down the tap, prices have gone up. Nigeria is still importing from them, bringing in imported inflation. So all of this, say, you could get value addition so that you can create jobs here, have a product that can compete, export, have a non-oil revenue that can grow, which is growing actually. They should grow to the level where it will compete, because at the moment crude brings 79% of our forex, gas 11%, between the two 90%. The other 10% is a very direct investment that you can't see. It's only right away. Portfolio investment, where is it? It comes in today, you cough in government house, all of them will go tomorrow.
Prof, sorry to interject. Sorry to interject, because you've actually, driven me to the question I wanted to ask you, and that is, a member of the House, that's the Senate leader in the paper this morning, was quoted to have raised concern about, the percentage of recurrent expenditure, which is about 9.92 trillion naira. According to him, he said it's on the high side, and if you look at that, that is the bulk of it. The bulk of what we are actually spending is on consumption, is on salaries and pensions and other consumption. Our capital expenditure is 8.7. So are we? Is 6%. So are we not going, a lot less, still consumption dependent? Is this budget not still, pushing us back to being a consumption, dependent country?
Well, you see, the rule of the thumb has always been that we should endeavor to be at least 30% on capital expenditure. And the previous government tried, to keep to that level. Now it dropped to 26%. It will go up, but I think that there will be more pain. So it's going to get worse before it gets better. Yes. Because while we are now having 74% of recurrent expenditure, when the new salary wage comes, I think I saw you say 24 billion. So when that comes, you will now see that the expenditure will even be 90% or something. But it will get better over time, because the ways of life that we are seeing and the aggressive pursuit, there's nothing that we can do more than looking at the supply side of this thing, which is, where is the forest? Stop disturbing me with all this spend and all this. Where is the money? We want to see that come into the equation, because in any price mechanism, which is what I've said, NPR is price, interest rate is price, inflation is price, forex is price. There has to be demand and supply. So when you now begin to have supply, and don't forget that when you're asking me about the impact of monetary policy, many people is so restricted to have to do much in terms of inflation, because you have speculators in the economy who are simply speculating on the currency. You know, you have 3.3 trillion in circulation. They're just using it to buy dollar, and then they put and then you have the importers that are spending $4 billion every month importing. They're not the greatest challenge. The greatest challenge is the speculators, because they are the ones that are betting on your future value, saying to everybody that dollar is good, now that is going down, and everybody is asking to get dollars, hold it, and then of course you have this security that says whatever you do, don't invest in this place. And then you have infrastructure challenges, like the oil has gone up, the electricity has gone up, electricity charge has gone up, the transportation cost.
Because of time, we need to wrap up. Yes, I'd like him to react to some of the comments made.
You see, Prof has attested what is real in the economy. But however, we have to value what the president has said, value for money. If we are to have value for money, then definitely there must be, to create macroeconomic stability, there must be a headway to try and push in good monetary policies that can stabilize prices in the economy.
Well, how does PRA come in handy here? Is there a need to look at the PRA again?
No, PRA has come to stay. NNPC, our main challenge, our import dependent is mostly on PMS. If you check the cost of importing PMS, if you can stabilize the supply of PMS, the rest will have a free economy.
Thanks, Yeshua. Because of time, I think we'll leave the conversation at this point. But it's a continuous thing. We'll continue to talk about it until it is eventually passed. Many thanks, Yeshua Liu, an economist. Thank you for joining us once again. And of course, Professor Ken Ife, always a delight to have you, an economic policy analyst. Of course, we have our second conversation on Good Morning Nigeria today. Stay with us after the break. Lights and action. From stage to the big screens and the streaming platforms, Nollywood keeps evolving with thought-provoking and boundary-pushing classics and storytelling that touches the core of human existence and tradition. Claire?
Go ahead, Wanyuri.
The vibrancy of her tapestry transcends mere entertainment, delving into realms and ultimately entertainment. For years, these qualities resonate with audiences from far and beyond. Today, our spotlight is on the 13th Zuma Film Festival, a convergence of the high and mighty in the film world. And we have joining us some guests.
Yes, of course. Dr. Chidia Madekwe is Managing Director, Chief Executive, Nigeria Film Corporation. Dr. Madekwe, thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure for having me.
Also here is Dimbo Atia, and Dimbo Atia is a film television producer. And just to mention some of his works, Halita, The Shanties, and Sons of the Caliphate. I think you've heard of the Sons of the Caliphate. Don't mind me. I'm not in, well, I have my own son.
Yes, I love Halita, by the way.
Also, we have here Victor Ekele Shuaibu, and he's a business development manager, Abuja International Film Village. I would have called you Ekele if you didn't, sound it right for me. And Ekele in Igbo language is greetings. Yes.
Alright, it's the 13th edition of the Zuma Film Festival that's our focus today, and I would like the Managing Director and the Chief Executive of Nigerian Film Corporation, Dr. Chidi Abaduke, to please set the ball rolling for us. Why the Zuma Film Festival, and what's the importance of celebrating it again this year?
First of all, thank you for having me. And Zuma Film Festival, of course, is our national film festival that started in 1993, and various leadership have managed the film festival up to the time I came to office 2017. Since then till now, I have been able to make it back to back an annual film festival, particularly with the support of the host city, which is the Federal Capital Territory, we entered into joint collaboration 2 years ago as the host city, like is done in any part of the world, that we work together as inter-agency collaboration. So since then, the Zuma Film Festival have been growing in leaps and bounds. This year, the theme in the 13th edition is cultural convergence, whereby we want to celebrate our culture, not just Nigerian culture, but the continental culture, because there's another collaboration we have with South Africa and other countries. We expect that the showcasing of those cultures will be on the top agenda of the film festival. So we use this opportunity to celebrate cinematic excellence, celebrate our producers, our emerging talent, our professionals in the industry. Particularly now you understand that this very administration is concerned about creating jobs, and film is not just about entertainment or information, but is the low-hanging fruit, particularly for a country like Nigeria with over 60% of our team with very technically savvy and creative. So we are creating the platform to warehouse them for purpose of exponentially delivering on their potentials and capacity.
And indeed, DJ, the presence of the creative industry is what stamped on the GDP.
Yeah.
You know, so I think this is just to up your ante, so that the percentage you contribute to the GDP, you know, is high. And I think the federal government is also, you know, given renewed attention, you know, to this industry. But I know that some years ago you were here, maybe 2 years ago or even last year you were here. Kingsley and I, you know, had to take you up on Zuma. And I'm just, for my curiosity, why isn't Zuma now a household name? I mean, you can talk, when you talk about entertainment industry, once you say Nollywood, everybody knows Nollywood. Why isn't Zuma now a household name, or is it?
It is, because we've been holding Zuma, like I said, from 2017 every year, and it has always grown bigger. Like when we now entered in collaboration with the FCT, it became quite bigger, and this year is more celebrated as it's bound to be.
In terms of participants, in terms of content,
in terms of
diversity,
in terms of content, in terms of participants, in terms of policy directive that emanates from the annual film lecture that Zuma hosts. It might trace you that last year, for the first time, the FCT Minister of State then made a policy directive, which has never happened in the country, that there will be 35% rebate if you are shooting film here in FCT, in any of the AMAC. These are the kind of competitive age like our counterpart in South Africa have, which Nigeria do not have, and therefore does not encourage production from foreign crews in Nigeria. And this year, during our annual film lecture again, the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue will be presenting a policy paper, tax rebate as window revenue for generating revenue.
All right,
so that's great.
Thank you, DG. Dimbo Atiya, you are a film and TV producer, and looking at some of the films that you have produced, very impressive. But would you say the same of the industry in general? You know, over the years that you have this film festival, you're celebrating, you know, that's why you're having the Zuma Film Festival. Do you really think that this industry should be celebrating, or should still remain on the drawing board and try to see how they could fix some of the challenges you know, that the industry is currently facing, and how you can, you know, become better like, you know, some other this kind of industry in other parts of the world?
I mean, that's why events like the Zuma Festival are very, very important to the industry, because this is where we now converge and have these conversations, how to move the industry forward. I mean, the entire year we're all busy in film locations, pretty much running up and down to look for the money to make the films. But then once in a year we come in a week together and just have these conversations about policies that can literally change the industry itself. So it's something that we're very proactive about, and something that a lot of stakeholders have had the opportunity to come. I mean, you know, when you said something about popularity, the thing about Zuma Festival, it's solidly more about policy. Of course, there's all the razzmatazz is there, but I mean, as a government agency that is behind it, their sole aim also is to make sure that there are, you know, enough playing grounds for everybody in terms of how government can be involved, how the private sector can be involved in making things move. So for those of us who practice in the private sector, every time they call us for the Zuma Festival, we're always there, because there's a need to move forward. There's a need to talk about policy. I mean, he talked about the 35% rebate in Abuja here. I mean, it's something that it's encouraging for people to know that if you come to Abuja and you have anything to do here, you get this sort of incentives, you know. So for Nollywood, it's a conversation that must continue every year, just like every other sector, that we always find time to sit down and look at what has been done, what needs to be done, and what the future is supposed to look like. So there, I'm excited about the possibilities that the Zuma Festival will provide for filmmakers like me.
I'm also excited that it's not just the razzmatazz, you know, and all that, but that the policy, you know, direction that comes with it. And he's also talking about, the DG is also talking about expected policy direction from the Ministry of Interior. That's great.
Absolutely.
That's great. And I'm wondering, Victor, apart from the ingenuity and displays and support or collaboration, that we get to see from other participating countries, what are the expectations, this year?
I think the expectation is very high as usual, and we are looking forward to see a lot of stakeholders and even foreigners coming to Nigeria, to Abuja, the city of Abuja here, for this great event that is coming up. So the expectation is high as usual. There's going to be a lot of collaborations in terms of the different people, cultural convergence that is coming from different countries. There will be synergy that will be built.
So what's Abuja Film Village own contribution? What would be your own contribution in building model with?
Well, we are part of the stakeholder, and our own contribution is, in fact, it will give us an opportunity to even showcase what we have. Well, like we have about 5,000 hectares of land, which the FCT administration has given to us. We are looking forward to see prospective investors that will want to invest in that land. The whole idea of the Abuja Film Village, as initiated by FCT, is to build a film village. So the film village now, there is over 5,000 hectares of land. And so
what area?
We are given that land in Yanga and Kusaki district in Kujie area council. And so already we have some investors already who are already creating access road to the place, but we still have looking forward to other investors that will come in.
What kind of what kind of facility? Because when you talk about investing in that area in African, Tinapa comes to my mind. So what kind of facility, you understand, are you hoping to see within that structure, within that piece of land?
Okay, well, usually when the Abuja Film Village was initiated, the former MD came up with 50 components. The 50 components were divided into 4 segments. And the first segment, we have the film tourism, we have the film education, then we have the urban development. So everything that you can see in a film industry or village.
So it's a one-stop.
It's a one-stop shop. We're just like Universal Studio.
Yes,
that is what the idea is about.
Beautiful. Of course, looking forward to that. Coming into fruition. But DJ, I'd like to just quickly get back to you now. You have talked about looking at policies, how you can improve the industry. But one area that worries some Nigerians will be the content of our films these days. Compared to what we used to see. I just want to know if that's going to be a focus, in this festival this year. If you're looking at how, film producers, like Jimbo, can, redirect their content. I think these days we're seeing something different from what we hold dear as a people, our culture, our tradition, our values. We're beginning to have the Western, culture, and everything that is Western, not Nigerian, not African, infused in our films. Are we going to see a change? Is this festival going to address that so that filmmakers can begin to focus inwards and project, the Nigerian culture and people and tradition and the good things that we have to the outside world? Or we're still going to continue to try to imitate what's happening in other parts of the world?
Thank you for this question. Culture, content is a continuing conversation. It will always, be there in the front burner, the issue of content. And you may know that the theme for this year's film festival is cultural convergence. So the issue of cultural content in what we produce and dish out to the global audience is something that will always remain a matter for discussion. And I also want to say that Nigerian content, actually, I must give them credit that they are doing very well. That is why it is highly sought after. Today, streaming platforms globally are rushing to Nigeria as the next frontier where content can be generated. Where our problem now is, how do we monetize this ability to generate content so that we can, raise the GDP, particularly now that it has been made an economy, creative economy, by creating the Ministry of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy. So our attention is not just to generate the content, not just to look at the cultural, milieu of the content, but to see how that content can be rapidly monetized so that we can create wealth for our teeming population. Because if we don't take care of our demographic situations, then we may run into demographic disaster. And I think since the United Nations have projected us in the next 20-30 years to be one of the third largest countries in the world, if we don't use our ability in the audiovisual to mitigate that disaster, demographic disaster, by engaging our young ones in terms of the content production, in terms of the content in quality of the cultural content, then we wouldn't have done well. So
beyond the content, yes, okay.
I want to add to what you
yes,
said.
please, you also add, because I'm just wondering, beyond the content and what we see, translating what we have into wealth creation, it's also very critical. And that's why, like the DG you rightly said, that's why a whole ministry has been carved out for this purpose. So how do we now begin to look beyond this, content and expand the scope? Mind you, we don't really have a culture of film festivals. People like me. So how do you intend to to reverse this trend?
Okay, so I need to add to the cultural part of. I think that there is, if you look at it very well, I think the Nigerian producers have done excellently well in promoting culture through our film, and I'll give you examples. Of course, I don't know if you've seen the Jagu Jaguns on Netflix, which is a huge cultural display from the southwest of Nigeria. Recently, Afame Funa was released as a tribute to the Onwa boy culture in Igbo land, where the 7-year apprenticeship thing, it's solidly cultural. Just yesterday, we premiered our trailer for the new season of Sons of the Caliphate, which is rich in the northern culture. So I can confidently tell you, in the last 2-3 years, some of the top films that have been produced by Nollywood are rich in the cultural aspect of Nigeria, and so we've done very well. And if you must know, most of the streaming platforms now do, apart from a lot of the English or the American films that you see, there is a high demand for a 60 to 70% local language in most of the films that we're asked to produce. I know that for a fact because I've worked with most of the streaming platforms, and they will tell you we would prefer to have 70% Igbo, Yoruba or Hausa in the films that you're bringing for us. They encourage that, because if you tune into the platform, you find out that a lot of these films are coming with some cultural relevance. So in terms of us defending Nollywood producers, we are doing very well in terms of promoting culture. Coming to the issue of broadening this for some sort of economic gain, I think that the biggest conversation is platforms like the Zuma Festival bring stakeholders together to begin to understand the money-making part of Nollywood. To be honest, a lot of times we producers use our individual money, and even if you have to get investors, there's always this conversation. You need to explain things to them. I know that part of the activities for this year is also the conversation around data collecting, data gathering, information that any investor anywhere in the world, people who talk billions and money, is numbers, showed me numbers. And if there are places where they can go to access this information, it's easier to have a conversation about, I need your $2 million or your $3 million to make this film, because in the past year somebody has put in this amount. Of course, we've heard of the Black Book that invested $1 million and of course became a Netflix original. I can only imagine how much the streaming platform paid for it. So those type of conversations, it's what the Zuma Film Festival allows us, to come together with people who really might not have a strong understanding of what the industry is. So that is also broadening, bringing in people from other sectors to understand how much investment you can put in and how much it will. And I promise you, there is money in investing in film.
Very true. DG, I'll get back to you. I want you to give us the specifics of this year's, festival. The 13th edition of the Zuma Film Festival. What's going to be different this year? And then when is it going to hold?
It starts today and it will end on the 8th. What is going to be different is the quantity and quality of participation. Particularly, this is the first time again we are going to take the second leg of Nigeria, South Africa Film Festival. It's all embedded in this very film festival, because you understand that we have a co-production agreement with South Africa, so they will be featuring heavily. Already the French also and the German embassies who have always been partnering with us, including the United States Embassy, they will also participate, and that will lead to encouraging us to ramp up other co-production agreements like with India, Brazil, Canada, and South Korea, Israel. That is yet to come. Our counterparts in South Africa have over 14 about 14 co-production agreements with other countries. So this kind of incident, event, help us to groom that thinking so that we can achieve it. Our sister here was talking about Nigeria not being a notable film festival destination. Yes, that is why the National Film Festival, which is Zuma, is trying to create a novel that culture. Last year, when we hosted the Zuma Film Festival, we created the National Film Festival Association, which providing their office takeoff at my Lagos zonal office. In Morocco, they have over 1,000 film festivals thereabout. Because we have the National Film Festival, we have the regional, and we even have the local government film festival. It may interest you to know that just ending in Kano is Kilaf.
Yes, that's that's what I've been trying to get out. Kilaf. I wanted to know how you're collaborating with Kilaf, because we had Mohammed here with us just last week. Yes, Kilaf. That's what I was trying to.
Yes. That's Kano. Yes. Before now you had Africa International Film Festival held by hosted by Chioma Ude. You have here in Abuja International Film Festival by Fidelis Duka, and Echo, and many other. You have Edo, you have Port Harcourt, you have Kaliwood, and all that kind of film festival. So you can see that it's becoming, we are trying to drive the interest, because what happens is that when government is seen to be creating the enabling environment, then it trickles down to the regions, to the local government. And Nigeria, you can't be the second largest producer in the world, and then we cannot have a robust cinematic celebration all over. And the new ministry now is focused on creating film entrepreneurial hubs all over the country, starting with the siege of political zone. All these are a way of taking events that happen during this kind of film festival, taking it to the regions, taking it to the state, so that our audiovisual capacity, which we have energetic population that can promote it, is rapidly ramped up for the common good of the nation.
Are you an actor yourself?
I'm a medical doctor by training.
I've
politician by vocation.
acted. You never acted.
And a media practitioner. I would say, as a medical doctor, I didn't know I was going to be.
Now, as a medical doctor, that would lead me to this question. Have you tried, or would you be trying to infuse something on health, general well-being for film producers and actors? I'm just asking this on the sidelines, really, because in recent times we've seen a lot of film actors, producers, having a lot of medical complications, sort of. Maybe it could be as a result of lifestyle or the stress associated with the work, or I really do not know. But the film festival, would that be, just a little focus, just so that we can have some of these actors and film producers, living longer for us, and then keeping the entertainment industry agog?
It's part of it. It's part of our, in the program, there is lifestyle, part of it. There is even a gastronomy part of the film festival. we're talking about cultural, conversion. Because if you don't even eat well, you will get sick. So the fact that food is a great component of our culture. In this festival we're having now, we're also collaborating with NAHUTO, Nigerian Institute for Hospitality and Tourism. They are also coming to mount booths and do some gastronomy festival embedded in this very film festival. Then on the issue of health, yes, we've been taking the lead in getting a group insurance program. Okay. And it might interest you to know that our new minister, the new minister for the new ministry, when she launched the 8-point agenda of the ministry, focus on issue of giving a group insurance, which Leadway Insurance is maintaining the lead according by their name, to make sure that there is an insurance cover, for a group insurance cover for those who are in the creative industry. So we have noted the deficit in that area, and the agency and the ministry are proactive in solving that problem.
Dr. Madueke, thank you. And I'm just reading because Abdul Karim sent me, that's Kidaf, a gentleman by the Mansour who won the MacArthur Foundation US $1,000 US prize money for Kidaf 23 short film competition. And I'm wondering, what would you be showcasing?
Well, so I mean, as a stakeholder, I personally don't have anything to showcase this year, but I know that there are a couple of entries that have come in, and these are going to be exciting times for filmmakers. Of course, Zuma, it's big in its right, so there's going to be a lot of, and by the way, you're all invited, come and enjoy some of the amazing films that we're going to be showing. But I promise you that Nigerian producers are taking the bull by the horn. I mean, we're more daring. We've become more embedded in telling our stories by ourselves, in terms of going deeper, in terms of the culture. So yeah, I mean, personally, I'm not exhibiting this year, but I'm fully involved in what's happening as a stakeholder, because it is important that those of us who...
Besides exhibition, would there be awards? And then what?
Oh yeah, there's definitely the award night at the end of the event on the 8th, where of course deserving films will get to go home with the beautiful Zuma plaque, which is of course something that is lovely to put on your shelf. So,
by the way, where's this happening?
Yes, at National Conference Center.
Oh, okay.
I was going to ask Victor. Yes, somehow you are the host.
Yes.
Yes, because you're here. So what are the expectations in terms of arrangements, to receive your guests and all that?
I think that has been put in place. We had a couple of meetings some days ago to finalize everything. The securities are ready, the hotels are ready, the venues are ready. In fact, the troops...
Any special attraction?
Yes, the troops that will be welcoming the guests that are coming will also be there from the beginning.
National troops or Abuja troops?
Yes, our FCT troops.
FCT troops. You need to tell us. When you say troop.
And there's the component, the tourism company. The FCT normally provide buses, so at some hours there will be a guided tour of the city, so that people will get to know Abuja.
Is it open to everyone? Is it free?
It's national, so it's open. It's free.
Oh, okay.
It's a national film festival, so people are encouraged, to participate, because
then we will have time to visit.
Of course, I'll be there.
Please do.
She knows what I'm asking. I don't want to reveal it.
The babies will wait. I need to have some fun and unwind.
It will actually take place on the 4th. Okay. On the 4th, which is Sunday.
Okay.
It's going to be from 12 noon to 5 p.m.
We work 7 days a week.
Okay.
So the emphasis on Sunday doesn't mean that we are free. It doesn't mean that we are free. But we've noted. DG, your parting words before we let you go. What's the message now to, especially to residents in the FCT?
Residents in FCT should know that this is showcasing FCT on a global map, because it means that if we grow this film festival, just like you hear about Cannes Film Festival, Durban Film Festival, Toronto Film Festival, Abuja is being showcased on the international scene, and which is what is supposed to be. We cannot have a beautiful city like Abuja, and we cannot make use of the cinematic advantage of it.
Many thanks, DG. So I'll quickly get to you now, Dimbo. Your last words, not just to Nigerians, to filmmakers who are watching you, and then actors in the industry.
Yeah, a lot of Nigerians always have questions about Nollywood, our processes. Why don't you people do this? Why don't you do that? You see, the film festival is a place where you come for free, and you get most of your answers, in terms of when you interact with people. It is also a place where you get to meet celebrities and superstars who are definitely coming. So if between the 1st and the 8th, you have the time, just come around to the International Conference Center, have fun. It's going to be exciting. Sit into most of the sessions that are going to be taking place. Learn a lot about, the Nollywood, our processes, and just let's hang out. At least we'll answer most of your questions, because a lot of times you don't get to see all the entire year because we're in the trenches trying to produce entertainment for you guys. But this one, we wear our, underbox, we'll come out and we'll celebrate. So we're inviting everybody. Come and celebrate with us from the 1st to the 8th at the International Conference Center, and I promise
you. The lead actor Halita be there?
Oh yes, absolutely. I think she's an ambassador. She also has been working with them. That would be Chisomago Rishi. Yeah, she's also been working with them. I know that they were at the Durban Film Festival early this year, so she's actively involved, and with other celebrities also. So yeah.
Okay, I'm a fan, looking forward to seeing her. Alright, so your last words, and as we round off.
Okay, thank you, Ma. I just want to tell the whole Nigeria, and specifically the FCT people, that this week is going to be a week of fun, and that the stakeholders and all visitors are coming. Abuja will be safe. It's one of the safest cities in the whole world, and that they should not be scared. They should come and see and mingle with other people that are coming from different parts of the country.
By the way, I think I like the timing of this festival. So it's the 1st of December. I mean, just a way to say, Claire, I know you don't agree with me. For children like me, we like this festive care. Well, for you have to spend more money to take care of the children.
All right, we have to go now. We have to go. Let's quickly appreciate all our guests here. Let's start with Mr. Victor Ekele Shuaibu, Abuja Film Village International Limited, and member of local organizing team representing the FCTA. Thank you very much. Bimbo Atia, a film television producer. Halita, the Ushantis and Sons of the Caliphate. Thank you. And Dr. Chidera Madekwe, of course, MD CEO, Nigeria Film Corporation. Ishenka Ohafia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And of course, today is World AIDS Day. Let's not forget, Nigeria has done well in trying to meet the 95 target. That, of course, major status, access retroviral drug, and viral suppression. So we want to say kudos to, of course, all the agencies driving this policy towards 2030 agenda. So, Ira.
Claire, thank God it's Friday. And thank God today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria is over.
All right. So, it's your turn too.
All right. So we'll see you next week. Please stay safe and enjoy yourself.
All right. So from all the GMN crew, we want to thank all of you for staying with us from Monday till today. Please join us again same time on Monday. By God's grace, we'll see you. Bye-bye.